Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nate G. Jumping in here to talk about the similarities between the TPS system and volume profile and how you can use volume profile within the TPS confines and really help time entries and exits and understand what the trade itself is doing. So feel free to ask questions there in chat. I'll try to keep up with it, but at the same time, let's just kind of roll through some of these. The two examples, if you guys want to pull these up on your charts, that I'm going to use for today are TTD and ADBE. And so I'm going to remove my drawings so that we can kind of do them together. And you can see I have volume profile here on the left side. And this is in trading view, and I have it set at a pretty finite, you can control your row height. I just like to see more data, right? So when we're looking at the squeeze in the TPS, right, in TTD, we were looking at the 195 and the 130, right? Those were both great TPS setups. And I'm trying to figure out the delay on this, so just bear with me if I'm talking about something, clicking on something, and it's not showing up for you guys. I'll try and slow it down. But this is the 195 here on TTD, right? If we are gonna back it up a hair, this is what we were seeing for our TPS, right? It's coming, I'm doing the replay function. So this was what we were seeing. We have our squeeze going down here. We have somewhat of a bird pattern, but a consolidation pattern happening here. And we were looking for entries down in this area here. In between the 21 and the 34. Those are the two that I have on the chart at the moment. And what we're trying to do is find a good entry spot, right? And so if you were listening to D-Man talk about volume profile really helps us find support and resistance levels within this pattern. And then additionally, where most of the people are, and you'll hear Nate Bear talk about the POC, right? That's the point of control. I'll share the volume profile. And if you're looking to add volume profile to your charts, if you search the indicators and search for VRVP, if you're in TradingView, VRVP. And then within that, you can control how much of it you see, whether it's 40% of the box here, or if it's more. You can also change the opacities. You can send it way to the back or have it come out to the front, so it's easier to see. But that's a free indicator and something I use quite a bit. So within TTD, and we'll talk later, probably next week, about multi-time frame analysis. So we want to get into TTD on this 195-minute chart, but how do we know where a good entry spot is, right? We can look in here and say, okay, well, maybe somewhere between the 21 and the 34 EMA, or something off the 21, but we can really fine tune it a little bit more. And so if I come in here to like the 30-minute chart, at the time we didn't really have a squeeze on the 30-minute chart, but what I'm looking for is an area where I'm going to find support, which is about 74. In this case, it's 74.77. And I want you to notice this is the bottom end of this volume profile node, this VP node, okay? This is where a large chunk of volume is happening. Obviously there's consolidation going on within the pattern. So the bottom end of that, and you can see, you can also kind of line it up with the way the chart is laying out, right? This is your support level, and then we're going to come up here to the top end of that, and we're going to put in a resistance level for this pattern. And I don't have it showing right now on purpose, but many times you can set it to show you the point of control. Okay, and so I usually make that a red dotted line. So within this 30-minute chart, within this consolidation that we're having here, our point of control, if I have to get a little bit closer here, sits about 76.39. So I'm going to put a line there. And I like to make my support and resistance levels yellow, and then I'll come in and I'll make my point of control level red. Okay, so then I'm going to turn off that point of control because it shifts as you move through the chart. But on a 30-minute chart, this is what you're gonna see, right? You've got your value area low, your value area high, that is your support, that's your resistance, and then your point of control, right, within that pattern. Okay, we know we want to pick this up somewhere, and we want to find the best place to pick it up, right? So as we're going, if this chart was back here, let's replay back to here, right? We know we want TTD. It's sitting at, well, you can see that that's not the point of control anymore, because this is a dynamic volume profile indicator, so it changes. So this red line would not be the true point of control. The true point of control at this point on Friday of last week would have been down here at 74.54. Okay. So, oh, later, Nate. It sounds like he closed off a couple of things. Why are my volume bars thin, Andrea? That you mean the volume bars on the side? That's the volume profile bars? Because I chose to make them that size. I like to see a little bit more detail. But my point is, obviously we'd like to pick this up off of support down here, right? So I'm going to come in and put in a line. I'm probably going to make it smaller. We're going to make it dashed. And then, no, that's not what I wanted. I want that one here. I'm going to make this dashed. I'm going to make it smaller. And then I'm going to make an alert on this line to alert me when the price comes into that level of 74.52, right? So if we start to play this on Monday, there's Monday, boom. That would have been your entry, right? You would have had an alert set. You would have said, okay, it came into my level, right? We'll get a little bit closer to that. Would have had an alert set, and you would have bought it right there, and with a stop just below 74. I probably would have stopped out just below 74, that whole number, right? And so I got into this on Monday, and I wrote it back up into the point of control level. So at the time, I didn't think we were going to do a full, move to the top end and push through. So I was just taking profits somewhere into this area. I don't quite remember as it came into this point of control level. But I took off a small piece of that, right? I took off a large piece of it, and I left a small piece into this kind of spike up. And I still had that small piece into today, right? And so as this pattern starts to play out, Let's turn off the replay here for a second. As this pattern starts to play out and this point of control level at 76.39 gets created, this morning I said I still had my trailer piece on. And this morning I said if we come down into 76.39, I want to be a buyer. I want to add to my position on my trailer. I got a little busy. That did not happen. The ad didn't happen. But what did happen, as you can see as we get in a little closer, this is now I'm on the 1 minute chart, right? We had that level marked, right? We came down into that level and then we took off, right? And so having the point of control, your support and your resistance levels on your chart really help time some entries. You could have taken an entry here at the point of control and for a position size, but this is also a great add point. So if we back out, sorry, trying to adjust these a little bit. So if we back out a little further on the chart, right, this is what this chart looks like for us. And the key about a point of control, and somebody asked this a little bit earlier, right? The key about the point of control is this is where most of the people are. This is volume based on price, right? That's the difference between volume profile and volume at the bottom side of the chart. So if we are below the point of control, we are potentially a short, but we also haven't cracked our support levels. But what becomes really important is if we come up into the resistance level and test our point of control and then push again, there's a high probability that we're going to push up and over. And once you push up and over, you break out of the pattern. And then it's either you're riding this trade or you're adding to this trade. I had said if we came back into 77.61, I would be a buyer. I ended up taking off my position up here. I was going to re-add down here, and it never quite came into that. And we'll talk about that next week. Breakouts and reclaims are really important. Breakdown and reclaims are very important. But you have to understand how this volume price analysis works with these value areas, right? You have your resistance levels, your support levels, and your point of controls, and being able to sort of navigate within that for entries is really important. So before I switch over to Adobe, does anybody have any questions here on TTD? I'll try to catch up on chat here. Asian Trader, you are asking if there's any particular reason I use 30-minute charts for entry. I actually don't. So when you're looking at a 78-minute squeeze or a 195-minute squeeze, and we talk about, this is where multi-time frame analysis comes into play. When we're looking at this kind of a chart here, which is the 195, it's hard to figure out where a good entry spot would be if you know you want to play this pattern. But once you start figuring out your levels, I'll take, doesn't matter the time frame, I'm taking my position on a 1 minute time frame, 1 or 5. Does that make sense? So, I know I want into this pattern right now. Let's go back to a replay. Let's say on this day, we've got our squeeze down here. I know that I want into this TPS pattern right here. Well, where am I going to get in, right? And when am I going to get in? Once I figure out my levels on a slightly smaller time frame, so there's your 30, right? I can even go back when it's time to buy. I'm going to do it on a 1 minute time frame. And my buy would have been, if I can find the right tool here. My buy was, sorry, not would have been, my buy was down here off of this level on, oh, this was Tuesday already. So Tuesday. Because did we not trade this Monday? I can't remember. Right? So this is where I got my entry and wrote it up kind of into this spike here and took a majority of it off. But I want to see that it's going to start to reverse off of these support levels right here to take that entry. Does that make sense? So I kind of move it around. Yeah, volume profile in TOS is in studies. And I think it's just labeled volume profile. And when we get into training next week, I have also I chart in TradingView, and then I don't know if this will stop the streaming or not, but I also do a lot of trading in Thinkorswim, and there you can see me, right? And so I'll be able to show this screen as well. And so that's my Thinkorswim screen. Hopefully you can still see that. I'm going to switch back though. And so we can talk about those screens and how to set those up and all that, because I know a lot of you are in Thinkorswim. Wiser, yes, this is Nate G. And we'll talk about the Thinkorswim charts in another video or in another session, probably next week. So then let's take what we just did with TTD, right, and let's apply that to Adobe, because Adobe's an active trade and TTD is one that I'm out of at the moment. I took profits on that. Okay. So we, as a group, we all like that. We all like this Adobe, right? And we can see I'm on the 78, but Adobe's gorgeous on the 195. It's gorgeous on the 130. So let's do it on the 130, right? So as we can see, we like this pattern on the 130. We're in a squeeze down here with rounding momentum, especially earlier today with rounding momentum. And I need to figure out how I want to get into this. So I'm going to come in and look at this volume profile node. This is the majority of the trading that's happened in the pattern that we want to get in. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to mark my value area low. I like to make those yellow and dotted. Okay. And then I'm going to also come in and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger this way. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to mark a value area high, roughly at about here. And then the system is putting in my point of control. So I'm going to add my own point of control pretty much right on top of it. And I like to make that red just so I know, what I'm dealing with, especially when I'm zoomed in on a 1 hour, right? Okay, so now I have these kind of key levels. I also can see, if you guys can see this, sorry, I'm trying to work a little slower so that the lag time comes up, but I can kind of see a little volume profile here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in another black line, red line right there, just so I can kind of get a clear idea. But this is what shows you this pattern breaks down, in my opinion, below 473.25, and it's breaking out above 491-ish. Right? We start to lose volume profile. We'll start to lose. There's air in here. We might see some resistance at 403.33. You can see that little piece that jumps out. But we get out of this main pattern at about there, right? So we've got our squeeze going. Now we need to find an entry point. And I took an entry on this today. So, and I'll show you where I took that entry. Sorry, I need to reset this. Okay, so this is today on the 1 minute chart, right? That's what we're looking at here. And you'll see this second line I put down here. So let's make sure we can see our support and resistance. Oh, that was my first line. So you can see on my chart, I'll try and get it a little bit smaller here. Our resistance level up here at 491.04. D-Man was playing this yesterday, took it all the way up to that. It double topped, sold it. He made some great profits. I wasn't in this yet. But I knew I wanted to be in it. So I'm going to get rid of the line that the system puts in for point of control, which was kind of up here at the moment, because that's not the true point of control for the whole pattern. As you can see, volume profile changes. It's showing you based on what is visible in your chart. Okay, so at least it does on TradingView. It does not on TOS. So if you're on TOS, it's a little more clunky. But this will change as I show more of my chart. And this is how we can decide who we want to look at when we're playing those people. And you can see this level I put in here at 481.51 is very, very close to what would be the actual point of control for this section of buyers and sellers at 481.36. Can you guys see how I did that? So that was a level that I chose way out in a 195-minute chart, or sorry, the 130-minute chart. And it came very close, within a few cents, to the level when I zoomed into this 1 minute chart. Okay, I can even back this out to a five minute chart to make it a little easier. Okay, so you can see the level here. We got a gap down on Adobe today, and I knew I wanted to be in it. So we got our gap today. If I can find the right tool. And I picked it up first thing this morning, right there off that point of control. Because I had that line drawn in there. And because we're trading above the point of control, I'm using that as as my first resistance level. Support level. I would have had to let this, and I wouldn't have. I would have stopped. This was my buy point with a tight stop, relatively tight stop. And then I would have waited and where I would have loaded up. And I didn't take a full position either. Okay, so this is how we scale in and scale out. So where I would take a full position is down here around, 474. So if I put an alert in here at 474 to alert me, why would I take a full position down into this area versus a half position? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? So I took a half position here, and in some names, you can take a half position and add into full position down here. Yeah, I only took a yeah, from down here. Well, there's something I'm actually looking for one other thing. Down here at support, the support level for this pattern. So let's keep backing it out, right? Down here at 472, 473, that's my support level for this pattern. And there's a big delay, so sorry if I'm talking about something you're not quite seeing yet, right? I would be full position here, but not full position at the point of control. I'm only half position at the point of control. Yeah, you're all very close and right to a certain extent. Yes, it's support. Um, no, not oversold, but what I'm looking for is my risk is very very low in the sense that if I take a position here and it breaks my pattern at 473, I'm out, right? So I can take a fuller position because I'm going to cut it if it breaks down. Whereas if I'm taking off of the point of control, I don't know if this is going to work its way back down and give me another chance to enter, right? If it breaks, I have a piece. I can maybe add to it on a break and a retest of the top end of this resistance level. What was resistance becomes support, right? So in that sense, if this goes to here and breaks, and you'll hear me and you'll hear D-Man too all the time talk about a retest, right? It'll retest that area and then potentially go, right? Doesn't always do that. But what we'll see, we'll go back to TTD in a second. Um, the TTD made a little break and retest today, and somebody in the room, I can't remember who it was, actually got into it on that retest and um, made a little bit of dough. So from here, if you, depending on your risk levels, right, you could take an entry here at point of control. I thought about it, but it didn't quite get up here. I thought about taking this position off at resistance. It just didn't quite get up to where I thought it should go. And then it kind of rolled over. So I'm still in this position. It's still valid because I took it at 481.34 or around that area, right? It's still valid. If it breaks down through that area, I can wait to look for an add down into the support level. Or if my risk parameters are tighter than that, I can stop below this and wait and see if it comes down into our true support level. And that just comes down to risk and how much you're willing to risk. In this market, I'm less willing on a $480 stock to let it ride all the way down to here. I would most likely stop and try again, right? That's the beauty of trading is you can always try again, right? And that's where we get into psychology. A lot of people get stuck trying to add to losers on the way down, and sometimes they bounce, and sometimes you save it, but more often than not, you have a massive loser, and you have small winners and massive losers, and that does not equate to a profitable trader. And I'm sure that's many. I've struggled with that for years, so I'm sure many of you know what that looks like. Um, so Adobe, I'm hoping, is going to play out. It's going to stay above this point of control line. I'll probably take it off here into the 490 level if it gets back up there, and try and re-add potentially back into the point of control or on a break. But this is how you can scale into trades. Okay, you can take a trade off this lower support level, right? Let's say you had this thing marked up, you caught this dip, right? take a trade here, and then you should consider, depending on how many contracts you're trading or how many shares you're trading, come up into the point of control, take some off. You got the move from support back to the point of control. There is potential it's going to roll right back over, right? So take some off. This one happened to move up. Save that. You've got a trailer. Take off another set here at support. And then you're maybe leaving a trailer for the breakout. But if the breakout doesn't happen, let's say you took 5 contracts here, you're taking off 3 here, you're taking off 1 more here, you have 1 contract. Now we reverse. Okay, you can add a contract here. Now you're only 2 contracts in on a 5 contract lot. Now, Adobe is an expensive stock and expensive contract. So like this is maybe not be the best example, right? And then you could even re-add down here at support, back into 5 contracts and try and ride that back up again. But that's how these patterns play out. They play into these support and resistance levels for a while, and that's when you get the squeeze. And you can make money during the squeeze if you're scaling in and scaling out. And then you always have a trailer on for the actual breakout. But in most cases, you're not going to have the ideal would be 5 contracts here, right? And then hold, all 5 contracts off up here. But that's not realistic. And what you'll see some of these break out and reverse. But learning how to play within the pattern using volume profile and support and resistance levels is really key. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, because both of these charts were pretty good examples of that. And they may continue to play out. I mean, we're at a 195 squeeze on Adobe, right? So let's see here. I mean, this will most likely turn into a daily squeeze pretty soon. And during that time, it's going to play within the pattern. So knowing what those are and being able to make money during that process by scaling in and scaling out, one, prepares you for the breakout that is inevitably going to happen either to the upside or to the downside. And then if it's to the upside, you're in it, so you can be ready for that trailer to that's where you make your big money, is on the trailer that breaks out and goes 10 points. So does anybody have any questions on that? This is kind of a strategy. This is kind of a hybrid between the TPS method and volume profile. And you can really see it here in this chart of TTD. This is our pattern, right? Our 195 or 130 minute chart that we're playing on a 1 minute, looking at it on a 1 minute or a 5 minute. We've got our support and resistance levels, and now we can find places to play within that pattern. Great, Nina. I'm glad that helped. So anybody have any questions or want to look at some charts? Let me see if I'll catch up in chat. Mark J, you're asking how far out we're purchasing. It depends on the pattern. So if I'm looking at a 30, 15 minute or 30 minute squeeze, I may play same week options or the next week. But if I'm in a 195 or a daily squeeze, I want to be 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, even further. When in doubt, go further out, right? Murph, on my charts in TOS, 30 days, 90 days, is that what you're asking? This one I can just change it by scrolling. No, on my trading view. Um, D man, thank you. You know, I try and keep it nice and low for you, buddy. Uh, and you know that this learning to play the volume profile levels within a TPS pattern, I learned from D man. So he can really get into it, and he understands it on a level that I don't think any of us ever will. So I'm the one that's going to help explain, give you the easy version, the beginner's version. Which trading view volume profile do I use? I use the VRVP, and then I adjust. So my settings. So if you go into indicators and you go VRVP, visible range volume profile, and if you put that on your chart, I'll give it a second. Visible range volume profile. You can just search VRVP, and then my settings are that. If you want to take a screenshot of that. And then more importantly, that's the style. So 40, I place it on the left. I actually have the point of control in there as a dotted line, just so it gives it to me automatically. Um, and then my inputs, and this is where you get the more detailed volume profile levels. I have set at 200. So you can take a screenshot of that if you want to as well. Do I trade Asian trader? No, I don't trade on TradingView. I trade in toss, thinkorswim. Let's see here. TTS, is that uh, a chart you want to look at? Nevin Mel. I'm butchering that. I apologize. Angela, I use toss for trading. Some charting I could jump over and show you again in a second. Um, TTS versus TPS. I'm not tracking. Stella, you want the dumb version? Well, then I'm your guy. I'm I'm your guy. Nate Bear and D Man will trade fast, and I'll come in and help explain what's going on real slow, because that's how I. Oh, trade pattern squeeze. That's funny. Um, TTS. TTM. Sometimes the squeeze is called a TTM, and I may say that from time to time. The actual indicator is called a TTM, but Nate's trading philosophy is called TPS, trend pattern squeeze. And next week, while Nate's gone, I've got a couple of ideas to come in and just do some TPS for beginners, volume profile for beginners, chart pattern reading for beginners. The slower version, right? And we'll just kind of go through the basics, because you can never hear the basics too much. Um, Mark D, I buy calls and I buy puts. I don't do a lot of spreads. That's just my trading style. If I had a larger account, I would be trading stocks, because just the actual underlying stocks, because it's just a little easier, and it doesn't move against you quite so much. Rivian's making a nice comeback today, isn't it? All right, Snow. Give me a little something. Well, RJB, I'm talking with Nate Bear about it now, but we are going to be, we'll set a schedule. So I have at least three, maybe four trainings we can do. And I'll come on and we'll just talk about a specific topic. I know D-Man will come on and do a lot of live stuff. I'll do a little live stuff too. Um, but I thought that coming in and doing some actual specific training would be beneficial. So hope you guys find that beneficial. And I don't know, earlier, D-Man, I know you're in here right now. There was some discussion of who was better looking, and I was claiming it was me. I don't know if you missed that discussion, but I'll just turn on my camera for a second just to show everybody that it's of course going to be me, right? Um, this is me, so now you can put a voice, face with the voice, and I'll have this on a lot probably. I don't usually have the webcam on, but if it helps everyone, then I'll turn it on. Then you can see who's talking. What do the black dots in your TTM mean? So I have the Squeeze Pro set up, and so the black dots just mean it's a light squeeze. It basically goes black dots for light squeeze. I'm trying to find one that has some on there. Um, Light squeeze, red dots for a standard squeeze, and kind of these orangish yellow dots for a high compression squeeze. And it just kind of gives you an idea of how tight it is and if it's gonna fire. Todd, that's a great question. You said the VP changes as you scroll in and out. So, for instance, I wish I could find a good pattern here. I bet we can find it on Adobe. So let me get rid of all these drawings on Adobe. So really, Adobe, here, this is a great example. We're playing the 195-minute chart way, way over here, right? On Adobe. And you can see we have some volume profile happening here. But there's a bunch of people over here that are affecting volume profile, right? Because it's showing the visible range, right? I don't need to know I don't need to know what these people are doing. This isn't the best example, but it'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Because it's been too long. They're not still actively, for the most part, actively trading and using this as, oh, I got to get out now, rejection level, potential support, sorry, resistance. And you'll see what I really need to do, and the only people that I really need to worry about are the people within this visible range here. And you'll see that in other patterns. But then there's times, what do we have, like BA? Let's see. It has a 78-minute chart. Yeah, I mean, you might still want to see some of these people here, right? But if I'm playing a tighter piece of this um, value area node, maybe I don't want to see these people, right? So I'm gonna move it so they're out of the range. Now I'm just seeing volume profile for this area, so I can play against these people. Does that make sense? I've sort of bumbled through that one. Yeah, it's the glasses that make me look smarter for sure. Yes, and it's important to wear a ball cap while trading for sure. Um, let me try and catch up on chat. Uh, Angela, I'd probably do a combination of both if I had a very large account. I know D-Man does. If I had a medium size account, but I could still do stock, it's just less volatile. I mean, you're getting beat up on delta and theta quite a bit, so it's just not as hard on you. So, all right, everyone, I am going to cut the recording here so that the YouTube isn't too long. But if you have any questions, I'll stick around and chat.